Venerable A Nanda continued and the end. The Parinirvana of Venerable A Nanda. After the Buddha's Parinirvana, Venerable Mahakasyapa led the Sangha until he himself entered Nirvana at over 100 years of age. His successor was Venerable Ananda, regarded in Northern Buddhist tradition as the second patriarch. When Ananda reached about 120 years of age, perceiving that his body had grown feeble, he resolved to enter Parinirvana. He entrusted the Dharma and the Sangha to Sanavasa and prepared to relinquish his life. Yet he hesitated. Should he enter Nirvana in Magadha or Vaisali? The Buddha had taught equally and impartially. To favor one side might arouse resentment and contention. Moreover, at that time, the two kingdoms were engaged in conflict. To avoid rivalry, Ananda chose the Ganges River, the boundary between the two realms, as the place of his final passing. When King Ajatasattu learned that Ananda would enter Parinirvana at the Ganges, he hurried to the riverbank, only to find that Ananda had already boarded a boat and moved to the middle of the river. The king implored him to return on the opposite bank. The people of Vaisali also gathered, beseeching Ananda to come to their land. Standing in midstream, Venerable Ananda proclaimed aloud, "Because the two kingdoms are at odds and harbor resentment towards one another, I do not know in which land I should enter Nirvana. Therefore, I have chosen the middle of the river as the most equitable solution. I earnestly pray that both nations cease warfare and restore peace and harmony." After instructing the people on both banks and King Ajatasattu, Ananda entered deep samadhi and passed into Parinirvana. His relics were divided between the two kingdoms. One stupa was the Great Dragon Lecture Hall, north of Vaisali. Another was built beside the Bamboo Grove Monastery in Rayagraha, Magadha. Through the manner of his passing and his words of reconciliation, the two nations resolved their hostility, ended their warfare, and returned to peaceful coexistence. Thus, Ananda's Parinirvana spared both lands from destruction and saved countless lives. For this reason, the people of both kingdoms cherished his memory with profound gratitude. Concluding reflections from the life and spiritual career of Venerable Ananda, several significant issues merit reflection. First is his role in enabling women to enter the monastic order, an issue that the Buddha himself had declined repeatedly. Although the Buddha upheld the principle of equality, he foresaw that close interaction between men and women might engender complexities harmful to the reputation of the Sangha and diminish the longevity of the true Dharma. This was why he initially refused. Ananda was not unaware of these reasons, yet with his gentle nature and sympathetic regard for women, he courageously interceded for Mahapajapati and the 500 Sakya women. Precisely because of this request, Ananda was reproached during the first council and required to repent. Though accused of having contributed to the decline of the Dharma, he nonetheless ensured that the Buddha's community embodied fully the spirit of equality. Second is the issue of spells and incantations. While traveling alone on alms round, Ananda was ensnared by Matangi's charm and nearly lost his purity. He was rescued through the Surangama mantra. Many regard such charms as supernatural. In truth, they are not mystical forces, but rather substances derived from plants or animals that affect the human nervous system. When the chemical influence dissipates, the person returns to normal. Words and symbols merely serve as outward trappings. For example, crushed garlic can intoxicate snakes. Lemongrass repels them. Sesame or peanut oil expels toxins, whereas perfume may intensify them. Certain medicines induce unconsciousness. As for mantras, their efficiency depends on the practitioner's cultivation, clarity of mind, concentration, and inner discipline. Thus, the same mantra may be effective for one person and ineffective for another. A mantra is a skillful means. Focus, recitation strengthens concentration and quiets the mind, enabling influence over mental states. Hypnosis and telepathy are of the same category. Though far inferior to genuine meditative cultivation, Ananda, not yet an arahant, was vulnerable to Matangi's charm. Sariputta, having attained arahantship, possessed powerful meditative concentration and thus transformed his mind through the Surangama mantra. Third is the nature of dreams. Dreams may be unreal or portentous. When daytime experiences generate psychological stress, nightmares arise. These are unreal dreams. When physical obstruction affects the body during sleep, dreams emerge, also unreal. Yet, when a matter occupies one's concern, images may arise from the subconscious that later manifest under appropriate conditions, causes and conditions. Ananda's 7 dreams arose from his deep concern over the Buddha's aging and the future after the Buddha's passing. The Buddha, through his enlightened wisdom, discerned their implications. Since the Parinirvana, all that the Buddha foretold through those dreams had indeed come to pass. In the modern age, many of us incline more toward study and theory than toward experiential realization. Therefore, we should emulate Venerable Ananda in proclaiming the true Dharma for our own benefit and for the benefit of others. To adorn ourselves with the Dharma is to adorn Buddhism. To adorn Buddhism is to contribute to the adornment of the world, bringing peace and well-being to society.